Hey everyone, welcome to episode 6 of the Miami Tech Pod. I'm Cesar Fernandez, and as always, I'm joined by the co-hosts of the pod, Brian Breslin, Maria Durkee, and Will Weinrob. And this is a special happy hour edition of the Miami Tech Pod because we're recording at 4 p.m. on a beautiful Friday afternoon. How's everyone's week? And first of all, what's everyone drinking? I'll let you go first, Maria, then Will, then Brian.
Sauvignon Blanc, because red wine lately is giving me headaches.
Got it. Maybe it's the quality of the red wine. We'll discuss
That's
later.
That's what I heard.
So,
$2 Chuck. No, I'm kidding.
Brian, what are you drinking?
I am drinking an Untitled Reserve Rioja from Spain, and It is quite tasty.
Absolutely, Spanish wines. Will?
I'm drinking coffee, and the only reason I'm drinking coffee, I have beer here in the studio, but at 5:30, I'm scheduled to take my kids for a bike ride, and I just figured to be the responsible parent and not get inebriated while guiding my children on bikes. So black coffee it is today, okay. But I'm living vicariously through my co-hosts.
That was like the most responsible answer. Thanks, Will. We've been one-upped on the responsibility scale. I am drinking a Chardonnay from the Willamette Valley in Oregon. It's a winery called Walter Scott. I visited the winery. Ken and Erica are like great humans, and they produce awesome Chardonnay and Pinot Noir.
So clearly, Cesar knows his wines. If y'all want to hear a Cesar wine dedicated podcast, a spinoff on this, just let us know on Twitter and we'll try to make that happen. Do a wine tasting episode.
The Miami Wine Pod coming soon.
Does Miami have wineries? Do we have like any other region?
It's not a great climate for producing wine, but we technically do have the Schnebley winery down south near Homestead.
Okay.
I've never actually tasted their avocado and mango wines for fear
is that a thing?
It might taste like, but yeah, that's what they make.
I have no comment.
Me too.
Awesome.
Coming next week, sponsored by Schnebley Wine.
Exactly. All right, let's jump in. Maria, first of all, you had a recent birthday. Happy belated birthday.
Woo!
And
Thank you so much.
And you spent your birthday in the most Miami Tech Pod way possible. You spent your birthday weekend at the 8 Sleep Suite, which is a very hard phrase to say. But can you share with the listeners how that was and just give us your life-changing sleep experience for the Miami Tech Pod?
Oof, it was lovely. I think if you follow me on Twitter, you may have heard my whole thread about the positives, and I think I may have successfully convinced Brian to buy one, but he'll experience it. I think he's on schedule to do it next week. So I'm curious to hear his feedback. But it was really lovely. And I think like everyone talks about the mattress, but also the pillow was just awesome. And it was like just a perfect combination of like firm, but soft and not heat. And so I think particularly like if you like to sleep a certain way and you wake up a different temperature and you want to kind of regulate that. And as a data geek, I loved like looking at the app afterwards and seeing like, oh, how many times did I toss and turn? How much percentage of my sleep was REM versus deep sleep versus light sleep? So
what are the healthy percentages of REM sleep that you're supposed to have? Because I have a Garmin watch and I track my sometimes and it varies. Like there are some nights I get like 40 minutes of REM sleep. There are some nights I get like 2.5 hours. Like, does anyone know?
I think we need to have Mateo on the pod.
Yeah,
I think that's a good call.
I don't know, but then on Saturday morning I woke up and I got 100, and I was really excited that I reached 100. So, but it also could have helped that I didn't have my 3 dogs in bed with me, and so I slept real well.
Yeah, that'll gotta do some experimenting.
I really want one of those beds. I mean, they look awesome. I'm getting FOMO by seeing all the tweets and the reviews about how life-changing it is. So I went to my wife, and this is a couple purchase because this affects her too.
Right,
this is not a normal purchase where I hit up Amazon and like buy some piece of tech and I kind of don't tell her about it and I kind of use it. No, she has to be involved in this purchase. This is a conversation as a couple. So I was telling her about it and we're talking and we're expecting baby number 3 next month. And she's just like, we have too much expenses for the baby. You're going to have to put that off and all that stuff. So my 8 sleep purchase is on hold indefinitely. But I was trying to convince her. I'm like, listen, the baby's coming. All right. I have an alarm that blares at like 5:30 in the morning. Can't have an alarm blaring when there's a baby sleeping. You need that gentle awakening from the vibrations. You need that 8 sleep awakening. And plus you as a new mom of 3, you really need to get good sleep. And 8 sleep can really help you achieve that deep rejuvenating sleep. And I mean, I was in full sales mode and she's like, no, we need baby stuff. Strollers, cribs, bassinets. So
the key here is apply to get the suite, take her to the suite. It'll be away from the kids, so you'll immediately get better sleep, and she'll associate it with the mattress, and she'll be all in. Mm-hmm. So I had it for 2 nights. The first night I was there by myself. The second night I brought my husband, and by the second night he's like, I'm in. Where do I sign? So they need to experience it.
The thing that's not challenging is they're going to have a newborn coming in a month. There ain't no way we're going to be able to leave the baby and go to a sleep for the foreseeable future, but we'll find a way to make it work. Maybe not right away, but
our listeners need to be aware that 8 Sleep has not sponsored this pod.
That's true.
But they could. So Brian, go ahead. Sorry.
I think I might have heard that there's a few open days next week. If you want to do a little staycation before the baby arrives, like a baby moon type thing.
Yeah.
I like this idea.
In Midtown Miami.
I'm definitely going to be snipping this episode of the podcast and sending it directly to my wife. So
awesome.
Good call.
So I figured we'd do a little bit, different, a different segment or segments this week. We usually have a guest on the pod and we highlight their company, but I think it may be cool after a long week where we're just a little bit in relaxed mode here to just highlight a startup that's making moves in Miami that we have noticed, we've seen a little bit of buzz about, just to highlight their story and get it out there in the universe. So who wants to go first? Brian, do you want to start?
Sure, happy to. So my startup of the week or of the month, whatever we want to call it, is Loupe, which incidentally, well, disclosure, Will, who's up above me, is an early investor in them. I think it was Will's first angel investment.
Yep,
right?
First one. Yep, absolutely. Really excited about it.
So Will told me about this company because we were talking about trading cards and sort of collectibles and how that's all the rage now. And there's similar to like how kids were watching all these like unboxing videos and unwrap a present, and like some 8-year-old is making $35 million a year doing that. So the latest thing is people opening packs of cards, right? And so this app Loupe is basically the best place to watch people do. I think they're called breaks, right? Will?
Yep. Box breaks. Yep. Box
breaks online, and then you can bid or buy instantly the different cards that come up or something like that, right?
So yeah, the way it works is, these breakers, they call them on the app. You go onto Loupe, you jump into a stream, and these breakers have products that's typically very hard to find. The market's just so crazy now that these boxes sell out rather quickly, and they're very, very expensive. Sometimes cost prohibitive to most people. So what Loupe does, these breakers get it, they come onto the platform, and instead of buying a whole box, you could buy a pack inside the box. So you'll open up the box, there'll be 30 packs of a product, and they have an amazing Apple Pay integration. So you're just watching the breaker live, and a lot of these breakers, they're also half entertainers. They interact with you, they talk sports with you, how you doing, very personable people, and then they show you the product live on stream, just through Apple Pay. I could pick the product that I want out of all the different ones they have offered. As soon as I purchase via Apple Pay, they say, all right, Will, you got a pack of Panini Ultimate Football. They'll pick it and then they'll open it for me and I'll be like, okay, that's my pack. Whatever comes out of the pack is mine. And then Loupe, amazingly, like magic, prints everything out, all the shipping labels and all that stuff ready to go. So they just got to take it and drop it in the post office and they make money via the application. It's an amazing app. Eric, the founder, is absolutely incredible. Recent transplant, just moved to Florida from Seattle, was formerly on the Microsoft Xbox team. Hopefully one day we could have him on the show. He's a great guy. But I'm a huge fan of the product. As soon as I saw it, I'm like, dude, let me invest. I gotta get in this.
So this is like eBay meets Twitch meets QVC for trading cards.
You got it right. I would say maybe not like eBay, because eBay be more so for auctions, and this is less like that. Even though there might be some elements to that down the line, but I think QVC for trading cards, you nailed it. Like right there's a definite mix for that for sure.
You know, I think there's an interesting trend also that this is sort of touching on, which is the live video sales stuff,
Yes.
which is huge in Asia. And there's a company that everyone should be following called Pinduoduo, which is blown up. And like, if you don't have contacts in China, you probably will never come across this. But, you know, they're selling like cabbages and Maseratis and all sorts of junk. You know, from a 1 cent, carrot to a $150,000 Porsche, all in the same marketplace.
Wow.
By random people like doing like QVC style, like live video stream sales, and
That's brilliant. I need to do some spring cleaning or something and get on the platform and start selling all the stuff that I'm accumulating.
I think it makes a lot of sense, this trend. I mean, you know, a lot of the previous generation, our parents, they grew up with QVC, and then everything now is via the phone. So what does QVC for millennials look like? For Gen Z, what does that look like? And it looks like an Instagram live stream, pretty much. And you bring in the social components and the integrated payments, and you have something, really, really amazing about that experience. So I think it's definitely an emerging trend. I'm super bullish on it.
Also, the trading card space has just blown up.
Oh yeah.
It's been really wild to watch. I've seen like LeBron James rookie cards going for like tens of thousands of dollars.
Oh no, LeBron! Oh, there's a LeBron James rookie that went for 1.8 million the other day.
See, that's wild.
Yes.
I mean, have we talked about NBA Top Shot yet?
We haven't.
I mean, that's another thing that's kind of wild that we got to talk about at some point too.
Oh yeah, I'm game for
maybe
that.
Maybe we'll dedicate another segment to that next week or
NFTs and crypto collectibles. That could be a whole show in its own right.
We could invite the whole Andreessen Horowitz crypto team is here in Miami right now, so we could invite one of them to talk about this type of stuff too if we wanted.
Awesome. Yeah, if you guys want to see that, give us a shout on Twitter. Let us know you want to see that episode, and we'll make it happen.
Retweet this. If this gets 1,000 retweets, then we'll invite someone from Andreessen Horowitz on the show.
There you go.
That's the bar is set high, folks.
I like
bar
it.
Is set high.
Awesome. All right, Maria, what startup do you want to highlight this week?
I want to highlight Sustalytics, which actually we featured on Refresh Miami recently. Female founder named Julie. She kind of is helping former kind of fashion industry veteran who's helping decrease all the waste that ends up in landfills from the fashion industry. So I think the stat is like 500 billion. I think I wrote it down. 500 billion in value that ends up in landfill every year from fashion industry. So she's using data to better predict consumer habits and trends to kind of report back to these fashion brands and make sure that they're producing things that consumers want. So it's amazing. I think it's a great combination of kind of sustainability, technology, data, kind of really revitalizing a very old and ingrained industry.
So they do market research on like what people want to wear, and then they give that to the actual fashion brands and say like, hey, go, build or design this because there's a market for it. Is that the concept?
Exactly. Yeah. So the fashion brands hire them. They kind of do a bunch of research and gather consumer preferences, asking them questions about, certain bags that they want to sell. And then they kind of report back all that data to the fashion brands. So I think in the article that Refresh produced, it was kind of like, one thing that they identified is in France, for example, specifically, I think in Paris, they don't like the color hot pink. So if a brand were to develop something in the hot pink color, don't necessarily ship that to your stores in Paris. But, it could have really wide applications as well.
I would love to see the regional differences in fashion trends, Miami versus Paris versus New York. Because, some of you are creative in what you wear out there on the streets of Miami. I'll leave it at that. Anyone else want to jump in here? Brian, what do you want to? Actually, I'll go next. I think there's a really cool startup called PADL that I've talked to Andres, the CEO, and they are doing paddleboard sharing. They're essentially installing these paddleboard kiosks where you can go through your mobile phone, rent a paddleboard. It is a contactless experience. You don't have to interact with the person. You rent it by the hour, and then you return it to the kiosk. It's really the sharing economy version of that business. And I think it's really smart because they put their pitch deck on Seed Invest, and you look at the unit economics of these things, and it's really phenomenal. I mean, I think one of these each station holds 4 paddle boards. It costs about $10,000, and they can see up to $50,000 in revenue from these things, and that's growing. So shout out to those guys. I mean, I think they're as we all went into COVID world and really started trying to figure out how many more socially distanced activities, how we can reconnect with nature. I think paddleboarding really exploded, at least here in Miami. And I think it's a really smart business that that has nailed the timing, but has also kind of removed the friction from that experience of renting a paddleboard. So has anyone used it?
I haven't used it yet, but I think the timing is right. I can say that during COVID and quarantine, we all sort of found this new, at least here in South Florida, this new embrace for the outdoors. I know we got kayaks, Maria got a kayak, and we were like outdoor kayaking together, looking for manatees and dolphins and stuff in Biscayne Bay, which wouldn't have happened otherwise.
Did you find any manatee encounters?
I have seen some dolphins and some manatees. Yes, while out there.
What's the protocol? Like you're
not hunting them or anything. I think you sort of like try not to touch them and try not to mess with them,
I have a bit of a confession. I've never actually paddleboarded. And I hear it's great. It's like an amazing kind of workout, full body workout. Andres says that they have like very high quality boards that paddle. So they're more stable than others. He invited us to go out, take him out for a spin one day. So maybe we need to get on that pretty quickly.
Oh, I was gonna say, do we get GoPros and we do the next pod all on paddle boards out there?
That'd be something.
That'll be a shit show. No, let's not do that. We will have microphones and GoPros for sure, but we'd have to figure out the microphone situation. Will, have you spent time paddleboarding?
I have not. I've actually never paddleboarded before. It's something I definitely need to get out there and do. Looks nice, looks peaceful. Again, with 2 kids that are, very high energy. I definitely need some peace and quiet. And I just can imagine being out there on a day where the water's calm. So I am a future paddle customer. Just haven't been there yet.
Cool. I think it's a good market. I mean, basically any coastal community, any lakes and recreation kind of. Yeah, I mean, I could see this being like widely adopted all over the country. I know they have.
You can expand to canoes. You can expand to whatever, right? On the same model.
Yeah, and I know they're raising money right now, and they have kind of like ambitious plans to be in 50 locations by 2021, and then 150 in 2022, 500 2023. So their forecast or projections for revenue, it's pretty impressive. I mean, 2 million in 2021, 7 in 2022. So hopefully these guys execute, pull it off, and there's a good business there.
Oh, nice. Somebody's done their due diligence, Cesar, you're jumping in as an investor.
I have nothing to announce at this time.
Did you guys see there was another startup that's trying to be like Postmates for the beach? It was like you can order like hamburgers and stuff
that's cool.
to your beach towel or whatever.
Isn't Postmates for the beach? Like
the sand though, like you can actually order it
like
to
you
like
drop a pin and they'll find you on the beach.
Yeah.
I may or may not have done this already via Uber Eats. Just like
I think if there's any Brazilians that listen to the show, they're laughing at us because this, like, when you go to a beach in Brazil, it's basically like an outdoor food court. Like, there are people that will sell you anything on the beach, like tons of different like little kiosks and stands and wagons and things like that. So, I think it's again a case of Americanization of over-engineering something that they've been doing for decades now.
I mean, but that happens all the time now.
It's true. It's
apps,
so true.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Uber, like in Latin America and Asia, people had drivers, and now then we have apps for these things here because we can't afford a full-time person or a part-time person to do this for us,
But I've always thought that it was government regulations that didn't allow them to have stores, like any kind of store shops on the sand, because it seems like a perfect opportunity. But I didn't know if like the hotel lobbies said no. Cesar, you might.
Yeah, it's highly regulated. I know like Miami Beach, for instance, has concession agreements with like Boucher Brothers and a couple other companies to operate, like food services and rental chairs and all that. So I think they'd prefer to select specific vendors than to just have a free for all and have like the free market out on the sand. So, it's up to every community, I guess, but that seems to be the trend, at least in Miami. All right, Will, what do you have for us?
All right, yeah. My company is SwagUp. I think we all know Michael here on the pod. Really good guy, recently relocated here to South Florida. Just did an episode of Lessons Via Leaders with him. I'm going to share a clip from that episode. But yeah, SwagUp is an incredible company because, you think about it, it makes so much sense. When I was running Live Ninja and I wanted to order swag, it was a completely fragmented process where I had to order, and Brian and Maria for Refresh, I'm sure you guys can relate to this. You got to order, yes, you're wearing the Refresh shirt. You order the shirt from a company like Custom Ink. You order the stickers from Sticker Mule. You order, the hats from another one and the coffee cups from, it's just a mess. It's a really kind of complex process for something that should be so simple. And SwagUp is like a one-stop shop for creating swag. You go, you upload your logo, and they'll give you all different products that you can buy, and they'll ship them in bulk. And the cool thing also is if you're welcoming new team members, new employees, or want to send your customer a pack, they'll assemble these swag packs that are just filled with your branded material. I think it's a super smart business. It's run by Michael and Helen. They're a super smart team, and they're growing fast here in South Florida. So shout out to them. So let me go ahead real quick and let me play this clip from Michael on the most recent episode of Lessons Via Leaders.
All right. One last piece of advice before we go. If you can give one piece of advice to prospective founders that want to start a business, afraid to make the leap, what would you tell them?
I think most people think that you have to have it all figured out. Like you have to have a business plan, a strategy, have it all mapped out, how you're going to, grow to this rate. Like we just built on our successes, at every stage. It kept snowballing and snowballing. You kept leveling up. And we didn't have a grand strategy. We didn't have technology. We didn't have a CTO until 18 months in. We didn't think about packs in the beginning. We didn't think about a platform. We didn't think about warehousing and distribution. Like those things will figure themselves out. And I think, and I was talking to Nico about this yesterday from an investor standpoint, like the product and what they're doing is not that important, especially at the seed stage. Like it's just about the adaptability of the founding team and their ability to kind of intake new knowledge and react to it, right, quickly. And I think that that's way more important than your idea and what you want to accomplish over time. And just by starting, you gain an advantage over so many other people. You get the insight. You want to get insight as quickly as possible. You want to get lessons as quickly as possible. And that's what you should be optimizing for. You build great businesses by optimizing feedback loops and keep improving and keep learning, versus like you had some stellar idea from day one, because whatever you came up with on day one or you thought you were going to do, 99% of the time it's so different by the time you actually do something, where like you said, you pivot or whatever it is. It doesn't matter like what you start with. The main thing is building that muscle and that muscle memory of I start things and I learn quickly and I have no ego in this, and I'm fine being wrong, because it's not that I was wrong. I tried and I'm learning and I'm doing better. So I think, start as soon as possible, and don't get tied to your ideas, emotionally, and get tied. You should have pride in the fact of how quickly you learn and adapt, and how willing you are to take in new information that contradicts what you thought you believed, versus just, I'm a genius. I know exactly the vision that, you're not Steve Jobs. Most people aren't Steve Jobs,
So yeah, I totally relate to what Michael's saying. It makes a lot of sense. You should just get started, because oftentimes your idea, as soon as it hits reality, it's going to change, right? And all the things and the hypotheses that you started out with will quickly evolve. And once it meets customer feedback, you need to be able to pivot and check yourself and check those ideas. So I could totally relate to that.
Yeah, 100%. No one wants to work at a company where you're like, hey, here is the blueprint. Here's the plan that you have to go execute. You have absolutely no leeway here to come up with your own ideas and build the things that excite you. It's demoralizing, right? So I think he's right on. Right? I've worked, when I worked at Uber, there was very much a kind of an experimental, kind of like celebrating, this experimental nature of the business, right? Every year, folks were encouraged to do workations where you can actually get with a team and travel somewhere in the world and do somewhat of a work/vacation, but you're solving a problem that has been unsolved by the company. And it was smart because there are some people that came up with like great ideas that actually became Uber products that made the company a ton of money and helped the company scale and all of those things. So I really think that's right on. You don't have to have everything figured out, and it's actually better if you don't, because people get inspired to add value to the company rather than just follow the script day to day.
I think, like, to add to that, I think that's a great sign of being humble and humility. And the point he made about getting your ego out of the way, I think that's something that a lot of early founders are so convinced that they know the right way and they know the path, when, like, there's a saying in entrepreneurship education, that like no business plan survives first customer contact, because all those assumptions go out the window as soon as you actually sell $1 worth of whatever it is you're selling, because everything else up to that point is just a guesswork.
Yeah, and it goes back to what the mantra you always hear about falling in love with the problem and not your solution. Because if what you learn changes, that's okay, because you're still in love with the problem, not your particular method of trying to solve that. So I think it'll help folks iterate when they're not kind of obsessed with their version of the solution to that problem.
We should also talk about SwagUp's recent partnership with Mayor Francis Suarez on the How Can I Help stuff, right? Who wants to sort of share the details of that?
I mean, I'd be happy to jump in. I'll try to do it justice as best I can. I know if Michael was on, he'd do a better job than I would. But I guess the high level is SwagUp in partnership with Shervin, who is one of the more notable investors here in South Florida. They collaborated on a design. Shervin won a competition selected by Mayor Suarez, and they're going to be producing these T-shirts, these How Can I Help T-shirts. And the great thing about it is, if you buy a T-shirt that's produced by SwagUp, they're the ones handling all the logistics and the manufacturing and the distribution of these. 100% of the donations go towards a local school. I believe it's called iTech, here in the Little Haiti area. So it's really for a good cause. You're supporting the local ecosystem, supporting education. And I love the initiative overall. I believe Shervin also said he'd be donating on top of this $25,000 to the school to get that program to the next level. So a lot of good movement. You can see here, Michael at SwagUp, he's only been in town for a few months now, but already making a big impact in the scene.
That's really great.
Something else to note about them is they've been very actively hiring. I think in the few months that they've been here, they've already brought on 4 local team members, and with plans to continue to expand that. So those looking for jobs, check out SwagUp and it's been great to see them kind of really excited about the local talent and kind of putting their money where their mouth is.
It's great. Cool. And speaking of Miamians making moves, do you guys hear Jeff Bezos, the goat of the tech community, is stepping down as CEO of Amazon? What does everyone think about that?
Yeah, so I think it's obviously huge news. Like you said, he's one of the goats of our generation. But I'm very excited about it. Why? Because, when you're that level of rich, all right, that he's, gotten to and accomplished, very well deserving, and also Amazon has reached that level of efficiency and operation. There's only so much I think you can do now at that point. I think he knows that Amazon can continue humming. He can assign someone to be the CEO and continue to do the things that he set out to do in a chairman capacity. And, I saw a tweet about this and I think it was spot on. It's very similar to what Bill Gates did when he stepped down as CEO of Microsoft and started spending the majority of his time at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is one of the most impactful philanthropic organizations that we've ever had in the history of the planet. They've done so much across so many different sectors. And that's because, Bill had the foresight to say, Microsoft is going to continue to do amazing things. My time is best spent elsewhere. And for us as a planet and for us as a species, we need Jeff Bezos focused on bigger problems than just building an incredible company, which he's already done. So all the things about space exploration and climate change and transportation and all the things that Jeff said he wants to do, this will allow him to do that. So I think stepping down after the initial shock, because we associate Jeff Bezos with Amazon, after that initial shock wears off, this is going to be a net positive for all of humanity. We need people like this focusing on much bigger problems than just private sector companies.
So I have two comments on this. One, first off, do we think that Jassy is going to do a Satya Nadella level of growth to Amazon and get it to 3 trillion? Because remember, he's an AWS guy, and AWS standalone, if it was its own company, would be worth like almost $2 trillion based on the multiples we see now, right? Which kind of impugns that Amazon retail is like a negative.
It's weighing it down.
Yeah, it's weighing it down, right? But then I guess the other question is like that I think we should talk about is like, do we think it's a good thing that we're relying on like a handful of folks to be the philanthropic drivers and the change makers for our planet, right? Is it wrong that we're expecting, Bezos or Musk or whoever to like solve all our problems? Shouldn't we, as the 8 billion of other of us, be fixing this stuff too?
Yeah, but the reality is that the market already decided, right? Like we all bought stuff on Amazon. Now Jeff Bezos has $200 billion. So like that's where we're at. Let the guy solve really tough problems with his $200 billion. That's how I see it. I know.
I'm not saying he shouldn't.
I mean, hopefully it's, he's not going to do this alone. He's going to employ probably the smartest and brightest people to come along with him. So we are helping in a way. We're just not the ones with the deep pockets to do it all on our own.
Listen, I'm putting out there. I'm going to put it out there that I'm willing to work for the Bezos Terraforming Foundation in any capacity at this point.
Exactly. Have you guys seen the Bill Gates Netflix documentary? It's like a 3-part series.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it goes into all of the charitable work that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation does to solve really big problems, and they really have narrowed their focus into 3 major problems. And one of the best moments I thought of the documentary was someone at the Gates Foundation goes up to Bill Gates and says, "Hey, we want to." They have a big goal of eradicating polio from the world. So they want to, put in place this plan that gets them much closer to that goal. And they ask Bill Gates for something like tens of millions of dollars for this program. And his response was, "I think you asked me for the amount of money you thought that I would say yes to, and that you thought that you can get away with, not the amount of money that'll solve the problem." And I think we need to increase that to 60 million, or whatever the number was. But there's something to be said for that, right? That when you have some of these like extremely wealthy human beings that are trying to solve these big problems in the world, the money is not the obstacle. They get to do it in a way where they're just executing based on the merits, not executing based on what their budget allows. And I think that's a really powerful thing. Should there be, are we kind of like riding on their agenda because all of that wealth is concentrated into, a handful of people? That's a valid point, probably, right? But for the most part, I think it's a value add that you have these individuals that are saying, okay, I'm going to go ahead and move forward and give away 99% of my wealth to solve a big problem in society.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that. And I think the benefit of having these folks at that echelon working on that stuff is they have minimal barriers for us to solve any of these problems. We have a lot of things that we need to get through, right? We have to get through political barriers. We have to get through personnel barriers. We have to get through financial barriers. When you're Elon Musk and you're Jeff Bezos, the world kind of opens up and says, if you want to tackle this problem and donate billions to it, please do, right? Because you have the firepower to do so. So I totally understand Brian's point and agree with it to an extent. We also need to do everything we can to support these initiatives, to be cheering for them when we're able to advocate for this change, and root for them from the sidelines. Sometimes not the sidelines. Sometimes be in the game ourselves if we can collaborate with them in any way, shape, or form. But we need folks like them to lead the initiatives and to plant flags in the ground and to say, these are things worth fighting for, and I'm going to show you that they're worth fighting for because I'm leaning in with my own dollars. So I think it's a net positive.
Also, I love what it says to the freshmen at Miami Palmetto Senior High today, right? That
right.
The precedent has been set. Some public school kid from Miami can go build a world-changing company and make billions of dollars doing it, and then deploy those billions of dollars to solve a problem in the world. So I don't know. I think it's a neat thing overall. I know he gets a lot of shit for being Jeff Bezos, and I think there's definitely some problems associated sometimes with their business practices. Sharp elbows sometimes in like their how they treat third-party sellers and all of that. But I think overall, we need to see this as a net positive, especially for public school kids in Miami looking at that saying, hey, look, that could be me.
Totally agree.
I'm sure teachers at Palmetto High use that all the time. Like, don't you want to be like Jeff? Keep working hard.
Right.
No, I was saying there's probably so much pressure from the PTA and the faculty at Palmetto, hoping that, crossing their fingers that he'll donate money to them, but like, he's made it clear that like that's too small of a problem for him to focus on. That like he's more likely to give $1 billion check to Dade County Public Schools or the state of Florida education system than he is to write a single 50 or 100K check to Palmetto Senior High. But I'm with you guys on that. I think there's some amazing things that he can do, and I think it's in our best interest to figure out how do we nudge the like these super billionaires into like the right direction, and hope that they don't turn into evil like Lex Luthors,
Right.
Do we think this will bring him closer or back to Miami?
I was about to say, like, Brian, I think you tweeted right when the news hit. So I guess Jeff Bezos is moving to Miami. That would have been something where if he was at the board meeting and he's like, you know what, guys, I'm done. I'm stepping down, and everybody turned to him. Jeff, what are you gonna do next? And he just put the shades on. He's like, I'm going to Miami.
He probably has a house here, right?
I don't know.
I assume he has a house on Shervin's block or something like that.
Probably.
Yeah, he can certainly afford one. But all right. So let's wrap up. Anything else for the pod this week?
a couple things, a couple call to actions for any of our 5 listeners that are tuning in. So,
by the way, I'm sorry, we have way more than 5 listeners. Like the joke is getting it's a bad joke because it's hard to spell ads when we have 5.
No, we do. We're doing good. For a podcast that's geared specifically for a region, this is the Miami Tech Pod. I'm pretty impressed by our numbers, growing on a week-to-week basis. And thank you all for the support. Really, it means a lot. You know, it's great to be able to chat with my friends each and every week, and then entertain and hopefully inform you all in the process. But a couple calls to action for anybody that's listening. Number one, we're in the market for a theme song. Any music composers out there that want to get creative for the Miami Tech Pod theme song, if we select your theme song, you'll have credits at every show and it'll be played on every episode. So please reach out to us if you're interested at the Miami Tech Pod on Twitter. And the second one is if anybody would like to sponsor the episode, we are open arms. We need a sponsor to continue going and obviously paying for the fees to continue to do this, for the hosting and the video editing and all the stuff that goes into making this podcast every single week. So if you're interested in sponsoring the pod and being our first sponsor, which would be near and dear to our hearts, please reach out at the Miami Tech Pod or hit up Cesar on Twitter, who's kind of manning operations for us here. Hit us up and we'd love to hear from you.
Great. Thanks, Will. With that, we'll wrap up episode 6 of the Miami Tech Pod. If you haven't already, please rate and subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. 5 stars, please. And visit us on Twitter at Miami Tech Pod. See you next week.